Hey, everybody. Welcome to Two Psychologists Walk into a Bar, the podcast where psychology meets good times, laughter, with a refreshing drink in hand. Join me, Aaron Quinn, and Jon Brandon as we dive deep into the fascinating world of mental and emotional health. But don't worry, this isn't your typical serious and stuffy conversation. We like to keep things light, relatable, and enjoyable, just like a casual night out with friends. In each episode, we're not only going to introduce you to our innovative company, AlbumHealth, but also shine a spotlight on our groundbreaking metric, YEHS, which stands for Your Emotional Health Score. This measurable and trackable solution is designed to address your unique mental and emotional health needs, providing you with valuable insights and personalized recommendations for your mental health well-being journey. Most importantly, we're here to cover all things mental and emotional health, from the latest research to trends and practical tips and strategies. Expect thought-provoking discussions in this podcast, expert interviews, and thoughtfully curated recommendations and resources to help you navigate the complexities of your emotional well-being. Of course, what's a bar-themed podcast without a couple of drinks, right? As we engage in insightful conversations, we'll be sipping on our favorite beverages as well, fostering a relaxed and inviting atmosphere that invites you to join us in our virtual bar stool. So grab your drink of choice, sit back, and let's embark on this captivating journey together.
First, the inaugural AlbumHealth podcast.
Two psychologists walk into a bar.
That's right. Yeah, I think the reason for that name we decided was to try to keep this conversation casual, relaxed.
Yep.
And it also gave us an excuse to have a drink.
Yeah, but one drink.
One drink.
And two, and let's review the guidelines around drinking, because we're not promoters of drinking in excess. We're promoting drinking in healthy ways, right? Because that's
right.
Two psychologists walk into a bar is all about, and what AlbumHealth is about, our company, and YEHS is about. So guidelines, we should have rushed up on this. It's 3, never more than 3 in a sitting for a male and 2 for a female, I believe.
Well, CDC recommendations are 2 for a man, 1 for a woman per day.
Ooh, per day. Okay.
Per day. Yep. So yeah. So 1 is just fine. And that's the thing about this podcast is you can come in here and not have a drink. People sit at bars all the time and don't have alcohol. Mm-hmm. Any bartender will tell you that. So and if you one thing to be aware of is if you think you have a problem with alcohol, there's a helpline you can call. So 1-800-662-HELP gets you connected with the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Agency hotline, and that will get you some support in your area. They can turn you on to folks that can help you in your area if you believe you have a problem. But SAMSA, that's right.
SAMSA has a lot of good stuff. I would check out SAMSA in general if you're interested in educating yourselves, finding local resources. And they, if I'm not mistaken, they have that surveillance data in SAMSA as well, where you can do a lot of data mining around various topics also.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of good resources there, but they're the place to start for sure. So what are you having today?
Well, I don't have a name for this, but I kind of think about it as the poor Iowa farmer margarita. I'm out on a farm. Technically not a farm. Apparently a farm is more than 10 acres, and acreage is 10 or below. I think there's some criteria, but hobby farm. And it's a margarita with ingredients are back there. You can't really see them, but simply limeade. So I'm cutting corners around fresh squeezed lime juice. And then I hit a little lime LaCroix for a little soda and dilution. And then I have the tequila blanco 100% agave from Costco. I'm a big Costco person, and that big bottle, it's the tallest building back there, is that tequila blanco. I think it's like $50 maybe. 40, $50, and it's great. It's a good deal. So I have kind of equal parts of those three, and it's Friday, pretty hot. It's a good outdoorsy summer drink. And my bar, for everybody, it's not my real bar. This is a makeshift bar on a standing desk.
Right.
With a couple of my favorites. Can I claim, just before we get to yours, I don't want to
Sure.
but I have back there a Big Grove Easy Eddie, which is a standard beer here in Iowa from Big Grove Brewery. A Busch Light for all the kids out there. High Noon for all the kids out there. A Zevia tea. I'm going to try that later, as I'm going to shift to something maybe non-alcoholic. It's a Zevia tea, so a healthier drink. And then a Toppling Goliath. They're Dorothy's lager, and Toppling Goliath, as you know, is just crazy good. And then I have a couple of bourbons and whiskeys back there. You and I you've got me turned on pretty mildly to moderately to bourbon. So that's what I'm displaying back there, and those are kind of the reasons. But you look like you have something.
I got a bar back there.
Sophisticated.
That's my COVID bar. So I had this entertainment center that I couldn't get rid of. It's a really nice entertainment center. It's an Ethan Allen entertainment center. Nice. But of course, what happened to all the entertainment centers when the flat screens came in is nobody can get rid of them now. They're these big hulking things. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to convert it to a bar during COVID. And so I bought the little risers, and I stained them, and I put in the glass at the back, and put in wine racks in the bottom, and did the whole thing, because I was accumulating alcohol, because I had just joined this Iowa Whiskey Chasers group the fall before COVID, and started kind of paying attention, because I finally started liking bourbon after years of not liking it. And so actually that ties into what I'm having today, because I have the very first pick from this group from Cedar Ridge, the Iowa-based distillery, and IWC is Iowa Whiskey Chasers. I actually won this more recently than when it came out. It came out in 2018. I won it a couple of years ago in a charity raffle and some other group picks, which is part of why my collection expanded so much, because suddenly I had like 13 bottles of liquor to figure out what to do with. But this one is great. It's really good. But and their stuff in general, I'll give them a little plug, a non-paid plug here, but Cedar Ridge does a really nice job. They've won a lot of international, national competitions, and they represent Iowa well. So that's what I'm having today. Cheers.
Cheers. That's Cedar Ridge. Obviously, they're not a sponsor. ... yet. I'm sure someday they will be a sponsor. But I actually don't know much about them. I do know they're from Iowa. I do know they're probably from somewhere along the Cedar River, probably Cedar Rapids area.
Yeah, just south of Cedar Rapids in what's that little town over there? I forget the name of it, but just south of Cedar Rapids, between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City.
Oh, so good location. And you're a connoisseur, and you're, from Memphis, but heavy Kentucky influence as well, and spent time there. And it's comparable. It's different in its own thing and good, or what?
Yeah, it's definitely bourbon. And it could compete with a lot of Kentucky bourbons. Iowa has similar weather to Kentucky, although it obviously gets colder here, but it does have those extreme temperature changes, which is what you need for bourbon. So it'll go in and out of the wood in the barrel. And so Iowa can produce decent whiskeys, and Cedar Ridge has figured it out. I think, to me anyway, they're by far the best distiller in Iowa. So
yeah. But when we went to Maker's Mark, that was a cool tour. I like that. We won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but you and I have gone to 6, 7, 8 distilleries together, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. And Maker's Mark I enjoyed the most. And part of it was like the history there, and the grounds were great, and I've had it before, and they have the wax, and there's a lot to that. And the tour guide was fantastic.
Yeah.
At Maker's Mark. But
Yeah.
they claimed theirs was so good because they had access to the water, that the lake up above that was lined with limestone, I believe. Right?
Yep. All Kentucky, pretty much all the bourbon made in Kentucky is limestone water. So that makes it
secret sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. That and the climate
are
the secret sauce. But yeah, Cedar Ridge is kind of like Starlight in Indiana as far as its size and scale.
That was cool.
But Makers was a much bigger operation. But the cool thing about Makers is it feels very much like going to a distillery in Scotland. It's old, been there a long time. All they make is Makers, and it's little variations, but they don't make other brands there. It's all Makers. And it feels like a family run place, even though I don't think it is anymore. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you have some other things back there too. Van Halen.
I do.
Just so people know out there, Jon and I share a love for Van Halen. We grew up, I would say, with different. When we decided to do this podcast, we share multiple interests. One of them is music, although we come from different backgrounds. I'm kind of an old school rap guy.
Right.
But both kids of the 80s, so we definitely overlap with just regular old cheesy 80s music. But that was kind of the renaissance of heavy metal and a lot of the rock, and Van Halen is back there. And I can't see the other picture you have displayed. Can't make it out.
Yeah, that's a picture from Graceland. One of those, it's like a doctored photoshopped picture where it looks like me and some friends who went are hanging out by the pool table and Elvis is sitting there with us, So that's that. I keep it down here in the bar area, but yeah, so I think you and I had the same kind of Van Halen, late 70s, early 80s stadium rock stuff. But then your add-on was rap and hip hop. My add-on was country because of where I was.
Right.
So I went to all those old country shows and all that stuff back in the early 80s, and you were doing rap and hip hop when that came out. So
I was at the Fresh Fest, and you were at.
I saw Willie Nelson, Ronnie Millsap, Kenny Rogers, the Statler brothers. Go on and on. So yeah, I was at those.
I just want you to know, I consider myself diverse musically, and I am starting to get a little tolerance, liking even for some country. And on my XM radio, there's like a Willie's Roadhouse channel, which is old school stuff. And like when Dolly Parton comes on, a Willie Nelson comes on, I love it. Like, who can deny that?
Right.
But my upbringing was kind of neighborhood heavy metal kids, and Van Halen was always jived with me above and beyond everything else. You and I'm sure we'll have an episode about our disagreement around which version of Van Halen is best.
Yeah.
Because you and I don't see eye to eye on that one, but
I
wasn't as thoughtful with my backdrop. I just, behind the drinks, you see my children, Austin and Ava, and a Christmas tree. Those porcelain Christmas trees with a light and binoculars. I love, I'm out in nature and love looking at things. So it was not quite as thoughtful as yours, but you have your bar. I didn't recall you did that.
Yeah, I did it. I think you've seen it. Maybe, I don't remember, but yeah, it was a fun little project. It didn't take that long, but it was fun.
Nice. How's your drink, by the way?
It's excellent. It's got a little hint of like maybe creme brulee. It's got a little banana. It really does. I'm not making this up. And no, I didn't read the tasting notes from the group before I came on. But once you read it, you taste it.
Creme brulee. You taste creme brulee in that.
I do now that I read about it.
That's
And
suggestibility.
a little banana, and then maple syrup I already got. So that kind of mapley flavor that a lot of bourbon has.
I guess we'll keep this clean as far as swearing and all that, but I'll use initials. I always thought a portion of that, and we're both psychologists, so we both understand sort of different psychological constructs and ways of using psychology to impact various outcomes, I guess. So when they say creme brulee and banana, it's all these wonderful flavored things that they happen to say that it tastes like, right?
Sure.
And isn't part of that suggestibility? Like, by golly,
yes.
I taste creme brulee.
Right. It is for people like me who don't have a lot of, I don't have super sensitive taste buds, and I don't have a ton of experience. Like, I haven't done the tasting kits and tried to figure all that out. Once you do that, you actually can taste things, I believe. But there are some that are so clear. Like if you have a nice single barrel Jack Daniels, it is almost always bananas. It's just banana bread, bananas, and it's very clear.
Really?
Yeah. To me, it is.
All right. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I taste undertones of lime and tequila.
Yeah. You're drinking the old Paleo, basically the Paleo drink. What was it called? What do you call it?
NorCal margarita.
NorCal margarita. That's right.
So we share a lot of stuff and things in common. We're both Virgos. You know, I'm cool giving away. Are you cool with our age? So we give away our birth. So
sure.
same birth year as well, 1971, which most really cool people I know were born in 1971.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It was definitely a cool year. We're Virgos. Our birthdays are we nearly have the same birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we also, you know, are very passionate about health. And one of the things that we did jointly a few years back was the paleo diet, eating, you know, and behaving sort of in a paleo lifestyle. And then the NorCal margarita was fresh lime juice, agave, I believe.
Yeah, a little agave.
And tequila over ice. You shake it and off you go, right?
Yeah, a little club soda. Club soda speeds absorption, and it's helps you metabolize, I think, a little faster was his argument with it. But yeah, club soda. Did
you so you and I have tweaked, and we're both passionate about health and have done various things, and I'm sure that'll weave its way into this podcast, since in the end it is focused on mental health and really health in general and ways you can move the needle on mental health. But nutrition is certainly one of them that's probably under-recognized or underappreciated and definitely under-researched. But paleo, when I did it and did it with Courtney, we felt fantastic. And I remember just being really lean. And I very recently just, you don't know this, we haven't talked about it, but kind of started to shift my thinking back to that. And I'm not like, oh, I'm doing paleo, but the sourcing of the meats, you know, the animal products that I eat, and I guess more of a plant-based paleo model, eating better foods, etc. But I remember you were like thriving on that too.
Yeah, I was, and it was very successful. The challenge for me with it was convenience issues. You know, so when I went off the rails with paleo, it was because we were moving. We were packing up, we were showing the house, we were packing up the house. It was very difficult to make food ahead of time, to have it ready to go, because we were all in on it. And that just, it got so difficult to do it because of the lifestyle issues that, you know, we didn't get back. We've gone back to it some at times, and I think it is helpful. And I think there's no better way to shed weight than nutrition, than changing your diet. It's much better than exercise.
Yep.
Exercise has a place and it's important, but
Yep.
if you just want to lose weight, it's all nutrition.
Yeah. That's what the research is pretty clear on, is that's the number one way of intervening, right? Is by modifying nutrition, and exercise is kind of sort of the rule of thumb, is that exercise helps you not gain weight, and exercise is incredibly helpful. Oh boy, it's, across basically everything, exercise is really crucial in physical activity. But yeah, as far as weight loss, nutrition is the name of the game. So, but you talk about the inconvenience part, the food prep part, right? It was labor intensive, life stressors get in the way. And that's the thing. Any sort of pretty rigid eating model, I don't know the exact data, but it generally fails in the long term. Longitudinally, it doesn't stay. Right.
Yeah. And having kids is part of that too, of needing to prepare multiple meals, 2 people working. It's challenging. So I do think if you can afford it, some of the pre-prepped kinds of things can be helpful. They're very expensive, but some of those products out there can be effective because you're really limiting yourself to those kinds of foods, so.
Yeah. And we'll talk a lot about behavior change, clearly, but we're here because we really want to share and help people move the needle on their mental health. And you and I have been in the basement, in the trenches, part of the greater AlbumHealth team, building and versioning our solution that is multiple years in the making. And we have a lot of data points and things that we pulled together. And I'd like to, I guess, today just share just the basics of what we've done and what we've created, and that we know can help people, and we'll continue to be rolling up our sleeves and obviously making it better and better and getting everybody's feedback around how to improve it. But it's called YEHS, YEHS, and it's your emotional health score. It's both a score and a program. So I guess the gist of it is what people need to know is we score mental health with a score from 0 to 100. So we make it really simple. And I guess there are a number of things we can follow up on that. But then we also provide people with a personalized plan to help move the needle on YEHS. So that gets into our solution is in the ecosystem of self-management, but that is an evidence-based self-management solution. And that is a soapboxy thing for me personally, that we need to make decisions that are evidence-based, not just related to health, but everything else should be evidence-based, in many cases. In some cases you can't, but we have created a pretty tidy, efficient, evidence-based self-management program where you have your score, yes, you have your plan, your YES plan, and you can get support from coaches. So I think it's kind of, earth-shattering. It's a new thing. And that people can just go to the App Store and download it. You download the AlbumHealth app, you answer a few questions, you have your score, you have your plan, you can't work with a coach. And as we know, mental health is strained from a clinician standpoint and access to care, and it's kind of difficult to navigate. And our mission is to really, I know we have our core values as an organization, but to just make it simpler so people can make the right decisions and do the right things. It's something that should be out there. So it's pretty cool that we can bring this to people. And in this podcast, I know we'll spend time with YES and use it as a framework for sort of most decisions that you make and behaviors that you engage in, including paleo, right? So it'll be interesting for me to go back, add paleo, at least for a period of time, and try to be pretty structured about it and see what does it do, from a YES perspective. And I encourage people, our point isn't to sell yes to people in this podcast. It's to sort of further the knowledge base and get feedback and have lively discussions around important topics and have fun too. Mental health is a serious topic, and you and I will probably jack around quite a bit, but you have to have fun. If you're not having fun, then what's the point? So,
right.
Yeah. What would you?
Yeah. Well, I would just add, the process is you identify goals for yourself. You take a look at depression and stress and anxiety. You take a look at how compliant you are with certain behaviors or certain areas like dieting or nutrition. I should say diet, not dieting, but diet, exercise, other factors, emotional health. If you have a plan you're working on, and then from that you get your yes metric or your score, and then you're working with a coach. Those behaviors you've got from those goals are based on WHO, CDC recommended guidelines. They're rooted in science, so they're shown to be effective. And then your coach is your cheerleader. Your coach is there 100% to support you. And having a coach helps make you accountable. And you don't have to have a coach, but results are much better. Our data shows time and time again, results are much better if you're working with a coach, because you've got a human you're interacting with. And we have real humans on the other side in our app that you're chatting with or that you're talking to on the phone. So, it's a system that works really well and has been extremely effective. But that score is the key. That's what you're paying attention to over time, and knowing from those behaviors, my emotional health is getting better and better and going up, and I feel better. And emotional health is the key to total health. So that's what I would add.
I'm going to shift to interview form, Dr. Brandon. We are both psychologists, by the way.
Yep.
Dr. Brandon actually was my supervisor back in the day. And you turned me loose.
Mm-hmm.
And today in our team meeting with AlbumHealth, he told everybody the story, how I didn't study for my board exam. I went in like, I'm going to pass this. I don't need to study this thing, even though everybody said I did. And I didn't pass.
Yeah. Well, I got to keep you humble,
Yeah. You have to bring that up. That's like
right.
I blocked that memory, although it's sort of funny in retrospect. But at the time, that wasn't funny because we were broke. Right. And I couldn't do anything with insurance providers. So it wasn't a very funny. If Courtney ever watches this podcast, she'll go, yeah, that's a bad story. Don't ever do that. But in Dr. Brandon mode, we should do that like Jon and Dr. Brandon. Jon has a drink and Dr. Brandon answers the serious clinical topics, right?
Right. Sure.
Yes. What does it do that's different? Why is it so important? Why does yes matter?
Well, I think it matters because we don't have good ways of tracking mental health. When you're tracking your physical health, you've got weight, you've got blood pressure, you've got all these different biometrics that you can measure. But yes gives you a tangible score on how your mental health is. And it's, like I said, it's a combination of scoring on surveys, so self-report, but it also adds, are you actually complying with the behaviors you've agreed to do? Because doing affects mental health. If you're out there doing in the world, taking action, not just thinking about feeling better or doing things, but actually doing things, your mental health goes up.
Right.
You have a sense of efficacy. You're accomplishing things, you're reaching your goals. So yes marries those concepts of assessing symptoms, but also assessing compliance with daily behaviors.
Yeah. So yes, just so you all know, yes is 50-50. in our world, we measure how well somebody's doing through symptoms rating scales. So we have them report on symptoms and we go, you're in this category and you're improving or you're not improving. Those are sort of the three outcomes that we look at. PHQ, GAD, those are the common ones, usually in clinical practices, definitely primary care, but psychiatry, psychology, counseling. And then, you have many other symptoms rating scales. We use the DAS-21, measures depression, anxiety, stress. That's 50% of your yes is symptomology, sort of how we recognize measurement. The other 50%, like you said, is actually your health behaviors that you're doing. So from the plan, you have recommendations that relate to your goals and what you want to be doing. And it's what you're actually doing, like exercise and the way you're eating and, doing your CBT or attending your counseling. And it's sort of this holistic approach where we have our 4 pillars: medical, emotional, nutritional, and exercise behaviors are lumped in. And there really is more of a movement to the lifestyle medicine sort of cluster with, of course, the biopsychosocial whole approach on that side of how you intervene and understand mental health. So it's this behaviors meet symptoms equal yes, which is totally different to me and a meaningful 0 to 100 score. You know what a 71 means. You know what a 45 means, right? You know what 100 means, where we don't have that in mental health. Something that's meaningful, something that has rigor and validity. So, and I get asked that, why yes, all the time. And my answer is, well, one, we don't have that a number that's meaningful and has rigor. 2, mental health is the foundation. It's the soil to everything. Everything grows from that, both positive and negative. And we don't measure it well. And we definitely don't pay enough attention to it, but it correlates with absolutely everything. Right. Every medical condition, functioning, the correlations are so strong that it affects everything. Your yes relates to how happy you are, of course, your relationships, of course, your financial health, you name it, and that's what it affects. So why yes for me is like, how could you not be addressing it? What if you have a why not, let me know.
Yeah, right. And the other I think important function of yes is accessibility. So here I am, I'm a psychologist. If I want to go see a therapist in my area, I'm going to wait 3 months. I know people and I'm still going to wait 3 months. My family's going to wait 3 months or more to get in. And so there's a real problem in mental health, at least where we are and in a lot of places, with getting access to care. Now, our coaches they're not providing therapy or counseling, but they are getting you in touch with behaviors that can help you feel better. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit, Aaron, about kind of the foundation of the company and accessibility, kind of how it came to be years ago in when you were pitching. I think that's a great story to let folks know about.
Yeah. And I think in this podcast too, we'll be talking about yes, but probably as we move on, a decreasing amount. We want you all to understand what yes is and what it's about. So that's sort of our foundation upon which we talk about everything else. But to give sort of future vision into what we aim to do, it's really to get people to know their score, right? In fact, we're making a commercial around it's a bubble over your head, but also from that, how do you best take care of yourself by diagnosis, based on situations, all these different things that you can do and improve your score. And then we'll have just random topics in general, but accessibility is the latest data. I don't want to misquote numbers. So people who have mental health diagnoses, which of course is rising, it seems to be, depending on who you're talking to, anywhere from 25 to 40% now of people have a gut diagnosis at any given time. And then of those who have diagnoses, not enough, or certainly less than half, actually get the care they need. And there are various factors. One of the biggest ones is access to care, getting in to see somebody. So my background, the story that hammered that to me is actually why I became a psychologist in the first place, even though I didn't study for my board exam, which was really dumb. Like, why would I not study to become, a licensed psychologist?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just not smart. But in 1997, had just a sort of really acute onset of panic attacks. And I was playing baseball at the time, and I was in, I don't remember where I was, somewhere in the Midwest playing, and flew back home to Connecticut with my parents. And immediately my parents, and particularly my mother, created kind of a plan. Like, all right, here's the game plan. Here's what's going on. That was a big thing. This is happening. And here's sort of the ways you can intervene. So she really liked the YEHS plans we create, where I was doing yoga, and she brought me into a Yale psychiatrist and started counseling and started expressing my feelings, doing emotional expression, started doing CBT. I remember getting a workbook. I think I still have it here. Yeah. This workbook here, the anxiety and phobia workbook. Remember this?
Oh yeah, I've got it upstairs.
Yeah, Born. And I had a book. There were two books I read at that point that were really helpful for me. One was this. So this really gets into sort of CBT, right? And cognitions and behaviors and interpersonal process a little bit, beliefs, understanding my core beliefs. All of those tools. This was the second edition. I'm sure it's probably at the 20th edition by now. That was so long ago. But I also got this book, From Panic to Power. I have that right here too. We didn't rehearse this. Right there. Yeah. And this is more of a story. And it was a story I read, like, oh, there's somebody out there who can relate and has had the same experience, but gotten, back on her feet and was very successful. Lucinda Bassett. Those were two very influential books. But I had access to all those things. And I'm driving in New Haven, is precisely in Connecticut where I was. And I recall driving through, a really impoverished neighborhood between where I lived and where I was going to a psychiatric appointment, actually. And seeing people on the street and starting to understand, like, my worldview shifted, like, wow, mental health is a thing. Wow, people have panic attacks. Wow, this is paralyzing. Oh my goodness. I don't see light right now. I just see dark, and I'm having trouble getting out the door, and I'm having trouble getting up, and I'm having trouble, my that triad of self, others, and future. Like, I had pretty negative viewpoints of all three at that time, and I didn't really see how I could go on, but I felt this connection to the people around me. And on that drive, I just looked around and I said, well, some of these people have dealt with this or are dealing with this, and I bet they don't have access to what I have access to. Like, do they have parents and a mom who are going to just create this game plan and get them into Yale level practitioners and yoga class and all this and buy me these self-help books? No, that's not the normal experience. And I pretty much created an evidence-based plan right then. And my literacy and understanding went up very quickly. And that was what turned the corner for me, is like, these people, everybody needs access to this. Everybody needs to be able to, now we think about it as self-management. And clinical care, of course, is a part of self-management. Everybody needs access to what I had. So that got me in to be a psychologist. But ultimately, when the concept of AlbumHealth was brought up, and hey, let's digitize what we do. Let's make this scalable and bring it to more people. It was a no-brainer, right?
Right.
That was something that I really wanted to do. And now we're at the point where, I wake up and hit the ground running because I know we provide something that can help people in a very tangible way and teach them how to self-manage in an evidence-based way, where I still get calls almost daily and emails almost daily around having trouble, don't know where to start. Right. You get that too all the time. How do I do this? Where do I go? So it's pretty neat.
Yeah. It definitely gets folks access to care earlier, a type of care earlier, and then get them connected, as they wait or as they get connected to other types, or some realize they don't need, other types of care after they've done the program because they just needed some behaviors that were going to help them, eat better, exercise more, examine their emotions, look at their sleep, look at their social connections. I mean, we hit all those lifestyle medicine areas too. But it's an effective program. So
what do you think? This is like, we're just visionaries and looking in the future. Everybody knows their yes, right? And that's a funny thing. I'm sure we'll put that out there. Know your yes, no yes, right? Even though it's KNOW. If people, we live in the United States, we live in Iowa specifically, and people were more aware. We're both sports people by background. You're into golf and Kentucky basketball. Right.
That's right. You don't lose too many listeners with that.
Just so people know. Jon's Kentucky basketball, I'm UConn basketball. We are, you can call us what?
Blue Bloods.
National champs.
Oh, national champs. I thought you were including me.
Oh yeah, we're both blue bloods, but we're a little bluer right now.
You are a little bluer right now. Yep.
But I'm sure we'll do some sports things, but I'm not. We overlap as much with sports. I'm a baseball person, predominantly a Red Sox person. Now we lost half the people right there.
Right. There goes the other. Yeah, there goes the other half.
But if yes was everywhere, and we're app driven, and that people see their yes and they're aware of it and they're conscious of it, so what?
Right.
What do you think?
I think well, there's the obvious impacts to health. I do think though, and I don't want to go get too I don't know what the word is, but paint too rosy a picture or be too idealistic about this. But the reality is, if you are aware of how you feel, you have a better understanding of how other people may feel. And if you can have some insight into how others feel, have some insight into your emotional functioning, and therefore can apply that to others, hey, maybe that person yelling in line is actually really anxious, or they're really scared, or maybe they're just angry. I don't know, or they're depressed. If you have that kind of insight, it makes you more tolerant of other people. So I do think that's a potential outcome. I mean, I don't have any, beliefs that we're going to somehow change the world. But we can give people some insight to their own and others' emotional functioning. So that social connection piece is a part of that for sure. Obviously, the health benefits that come from it are a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I like that angle. The angle of connectedness.
Right.
When I've been low, I have felt, and of course there are different terms, and this is a reality, you feel more connected to humanity in many ways. When you're struggling, you need people, right? You're more vulnerable in those times.
But your tendency is to withdraw. Most people's tendency when they need people, especially kind of people of Northern European descent, if they are struggling emotionally, their tendency is to withdraw.
Right. Right. Isn't there sort of two tails to that though? The withdrawal side, yes, but also the very, very overtly, leaning on people and strongly like incredibly open and just exposed. And that the layman's term would be needy, that people are in that mode when they're struggling more.
Sure. Yeah, definitely for some, they may overutilize resources like that sometimes. It varies by person.
The connectedness piece is one thing, and Lord, we need that, given the lack of connection around. I do think that's a strong, people can, at least connect at that level, and that's certainly an important level. I also think when you ask people how they're doing, hey, how are you doing from a mental health perspective, they usually give a very poor adjective, or I'm good, I'm fine, I'm doing well, oh, things suck. That there is not much technical terminology or something that's precise from a language perspective, in this case a metric, that's really helpful. Also the concept of what you measure, you move. That, boy, you really see that on the sports side of things. They started measuring how hard people threw and spin rate in baseball, and all of a sudden it changed the way baseball players train. They're measuring vertical jumps and 40 times and all sorts of things on the football, basketball, etc. side in those combines, and that dominates the way training goes. I mean, it changes behavior. When you have a clear metric, it does change behavior. We know that's really clear. So I really think the measurement and YEHS is key to the behavior change that occurs as well. And I just feel like, I don't want to be rosy too, and I do go there, but the world is a bit of a better place if people are aware of how they're doing emotionally, they have clarity, and they're working on it, that they're exercising, they're around other people, they're paying attention to their sleep, that maybe when you're out in traffic and you need to get over, instead of the person saying, no, I'm not budging, maybe they slow down or speed up to give you room. Like that we will start to see that, because I get on the highway even here in Iowa most of the time and people are like, nope, I'm not moving. You better figure it out. Right. Anyway.
Yeah. So I think those kinds of insights are things we're hoping to bring to folks through this podcast. And we're going to have a guest every time going forward. We're starting off looking at doing this on a monthly basis. And we'll bring in a guest that is kind of mental health adjacent in some way, or just somebody who values it as a part of their life in a non-mental health role. So we just want to have discussions with folks about emotional health and how that gets integrated into their lives, and what we can all do to be more effective understanding and managing it.
Yeah. And we do always want feedback. So please give us feedback. I know this will be on various platforms, most predominantly posted on YouTube, but please give us feedback if there are things you want to talk about. I mean, the aim is just like, yes, it's to help people and give them the tools to improve from a mental health perspective. And we want the podcast to really be aligned with that mission. So we're going to cultivate people and topics that we think need developing, and get you information that can really help move the needle on mental health. But certainly appreciate the feedback. Other details that people should know about the podcast as we continue forward?
I don't think so. I think this is it. I feel like this went pretty well the first time.
Yeah. Where's your drink? Is it gone?
No, it's almost gone. A little bit in there.
Gone.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll finish mine.
I can have one more drink today, technically, according to the CDC, correct?
Right. That's right.
As can you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, cool.
All right. Well, we will reconvene next month and we'll go from there. Maybe we'll even have a sponsor by then. Who knows? Watch for some original music. We're going to incorporate original music from a very popular local Iowa artist. And hope you enjoy that.
That kind of music that you can do this to?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Nice. All right.
All right, buddy. I'll see you soon.
It's been fun.
Yep.
See ya.